If you're bringing in something that's going to hopefully make a difference for our children here in the district, or something that's going to make a difference for our teachers or our administrators, there has to be a relationship that's built between either myself and the person, or my team and the person. And usually it's both.
If education sales has you second guessing yourself, take a breath. This is a trust first, relationship driven market, and the old tactics, they don't translate. This show replaces guesswork with clarity and a customer acquisition system that builds a pipeline you can trust. I'm Josh Chernikoff, two-time education founder with 2 exits and a lead gen coach for companies in education. Through my EdSales elevation experience over the last 2 years, I've coached 210 companies to leads on repeat. In 2025 alone, I delivered over 2,600 hours of coaching to education companies. My co-host is John Gamba. He also has a successful exit, and now he's the Director of Innovative Programs and the Entrepreneur in Residence at Penn's Graduate School of Education. This is the only show dedicated to customer acquisition for education companies, so consistent listeners go from stalled deals to clarity, credibility, and a pipeline they can rely on. This is EdSales Edge, where education company founders earn their edge. Welcome to the EdSales Edge, and this might be an episode that you want to listen to once and never listen again, or you want to listen to over and over again. Because if you're selling into ed tech, and our audience is, I've got a guest here who's not into cold emails and who's not into LinkedIn pitches. Dr. Jared Bloom leads Franklin Square School District in New York, and he is here to break down what actually does get his attention. And I will also preface this with, he is one of the nicest people that I've met in this industry. So Jared, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we're going to have a real direct conversation, and it's okay. The members of our audience they're adults, so they're going to, kind of take what you have to say, and they're going to learn from it. But before we kind of get into the nitty gritty of cold email, LinkedIn pitches, and all those fun things, tell everybody who you are and where you're from.
Again, Jared Bloom. I've been superintendent here in Franklin Square for 7 years. Prior to that, I was an assistant superintendent for many, many years. I was an English teacher, a director of technology, and I was in the .com industry. So I was, in industry before I even got into a classroom. So happy to be here, happy to talk to you. And, I've had a lot of experience over the last 20 plus years in education and ed tech specifically.
Cool. Thank you. And we got a chance to meet at IEI with Doug Roberts and Tiffany Law and that wonderful group. So I thank them for bringing us together and for helping you get onto our show. I, in a previous life, was a journalist. And so I really do listen to what people say. And we had a pre-show interview. And one of the things that you said that stuck with me is that you basically dismiss most sales outreach immediately. Direct sales pitches generally don't work. Emails are overloading your inbox, and LinkedIn pitches feel transactional. So can you validate that? And maybe you can soften it a little bit for our audience.
Yeah, look, I will start with emails. When you are getting 300, 400, 500 emails in a day, sometimes to sift through cold emails from companies I'm not familiar with or people I'm not familiar with, I just don't have the bandwidth to reach back out. And oftentimes it's just making sure you got my message. I'm just really making sure you got my message. Did you really, really, really not get my message?
Quick bump.
So
Yeah.
that's the challenge, and so after that, typically, I'm dismissing those. But if it's somebody that I've met at a conference, somebody I've had a good conversation with, built that relationship with, then obviously I am willing to have that conversation and then move it into an organic space where we can have a dialogue, a true dialogue. And it may result in a sale. It may not, right? I call it partnership. I don't want to just buy something and have it be transactional because, I can do that when I buy paper. But when I'm buying something that, my kids are going to utilize here in the district, it needs to be a relationship that's going to last. In terms of LinkedIn, there's been some successful conversation that's happened through LinkedIn, but it's
Great.
not, as you said, the cold pitch. If you send me just a cold pitch, it's not going to work. But if you engage me with an article that I'm interested in, or want to talk about, something that interests me like artificial intelligence, and we get started, in that conversation, that's how I, came across Amira, is a conversation that happened through a LinkedIn direct message, and we just started dialoguing back and forth. It was never a sales pitch, but it turned into a relationship where now, we are a full district implementation, and it's a fantastic, fantastic product that we're seeing huge gains from. So again, I don't want to say it's all or nothing, but it's how you approach people versus just kind of sending hundreds of direct messages and just assuming that it's going to turn into a sale.
If you're listening to this and you're already thinking, yeah, I've been talking to a lot of people, but nothing's really moving, don't sit on that. Don't wait until the end of the episode. Just text me directly. 7713334233. Tell me what you sell, who you've been talking to, and where things feel stuck. I personally would read every text myself. All right, let's keep going. Safe to say, though, it's all or nothing when it comes to you need to have a relationship to get to the finish line. A relationship has to develop.
That's the only way. I mean, again, unless we're buying paper, pencils, those types of things, we don't need relationships for that. We can just order from Amazon or Staples, right? But if you're bringing in something that's going to hopefully make a difference for our children here in the district, or something that's going to make a difference for our teachers or our administrators, there has to be a relationship that's built between either myself and the person, or my team and the person. And usually it's both, right? Because I don't believe in top down. If I get excited by a lot of things, I'll be very honest. I have a lot of conversations with people at various conferences, and I see a lot of incredible technologies that are out there that I think can make a huge difference. But school districts only have so much bandwidth. And so it really is important that it's not just me, but it's also my team and my teachers, and then ultimately the students. Because if it's something that is requires student use, if it's not sticky, if it's not something that students are going to get excited and get behind, again, it can't stick around. So I'm also, I used to be in the mindset of you buy it, you own it, you have to live with it. Not in that mindset anymore. If it's not working, you got to be flexible and be able to say, like, this is not working, we got to move on, right? But you hope that you build a relationship and you can make it work, and it will grow with you in the district. And I've been very, very blessed to bring in quite a few partnerships over the years that have really grown into phenomenal relationships and had phenomenal success for our students and our teachers.
When you think back over the years at some of those relationships that blossomed, I mean, really blossomed, can you name a few of them, and can you find a common thread between those few that allowed them to blossom?
Yeah, if I look at companies like Magma Math, if I look at companies like Freneletics, if I look at companies like Amira, nobody was pitching Nobody was saying, you have to buy this tomorrow. In fact, some of those took quite a long time for me to get on board and bring it in. Even though I was passionate and I really liked what they were offering, it didn't happen overnight. And so you really have to be willing to be in it for the long haul and understand that the timing may not always be right, even though it's right for you on the sales end. And sometimes it's not even right for me, but it's a product that I truly believe in and will introduce to colleagues of mine, because I have pre-K to 6 in my district, but sometimes I see something that I know would be fantastic in a middle school, high school district. And again, you may dismiss having that conversation with me because at the current moment I'm in a pre-K to 6, but I have a lot of relationships, and I'm always willing to make those connections if I really believe that something's going to make a difference for kids, because it's not just my kids. I believe in helping all kids.
That's great. And one thing we talk about to the companies that we work with is not only do you have friends, but also, Dr. Jared Bloom most likely is going to be moving around, because the good superintendents, they do move around. And so it might not work for this school district, but it might work for the next. And obviously it might work for a friend of yours. Before we go further, quick pause. If what I'm describing feels familiar, like you've been putting in effort, having conversations, but not seeing real movement, there's a good chance you're not looking at the right environments in the first place. And that's why we built the targeting map. It helps you identify where your best clients already exist. And more importantly, where value is already understood. Because mining only works if you're digging in the right place. And if you want it, it's in the show notes. You can scan the QR code or just text targeting to 7713334-233 and we'll send it to you. All right, let's get back to it. You talked about potentially the downside of email, the downside of LinkedIn. But in our conversation before and our own experience, we got a chance to really get to know each other at IEI, an institute. And you can kind of put potentially IEI as an institute in kind of the conference category. So let's talk about conferences. What would be a way that a provider could do a conference the right way so that they might begin to build a relationship with you?
So I think there's a couple of different ways that I've seen work. Certainly the IEIs of the world, that works fantastic because it is informal opportunities for you to meet. There are certainly those opportunities where you're sitting together and having conversation about the district and what you as a company have to offer. But it's also the downtime moments. It's when you're sitting and having dinner together. It's when you are walking in the halls, in between a session, that you have those conversations that really are the things that lead to potential opportunities, in my opinion, right? I also think, look, I go to a lot of conferences. I go to national school boards, or I'll go to the New York State superintendents. And, I think having a presence as a bigger organization is important. But I also think, and I recommend this to people all the time, is just walk around and have conversations with the superintendents or assistant soups if you're at a conference. And again, you're not pitching, just learn. I was sitting at a lunch table with, a company who we just started talking about, where are you from? How you doing? What are you into? And, it just kind of then becomes more of an opportunity to then say, hey, can I reach out to you? Would it be okay if we continue this conversation? And again, is it going to result in an immediate sale? Maybe not, but it could. And even if it doesn't, it could lead to something down the road, or it could lead to somebody else getting that opportunity. So I just think taking all of those opportunities at conferences, you don't have to invest millions of dollars in these fancy booths. Again, if you're big enough, Certainly that there's something to be said about showing that you're there. But I think there's so much more to just walking around and meeting people and getting to know uh, the individuals that are there, getting to know their, you know, I have become friendly with many, many partners, some of which I do business with today, some of which who I don't. But the bottom line is they introduce me to others, I introduce them to others, and it becomes kind of a family opportunity. So again, yeah, there's the transactional piece of things, but it also is about collegiality. It's about understanding what's happening in schools. You go to these conferences and you learn. You learn what you need to adjust in your product. You learn what is working or what is not working in schools. That then hopefully will impact not only what you are trying to sell, but also how you're pitching it.
Yeah, one of the parts of our course is called a Raise Your Hand campaign, where we get the chance to work with a lot of product people and a lot of educators, and sometimes they're not the best listeners, and it makes sense psychologically because they have the answer. So they meet somebody like you, and they're like, "I can help you here," and we teach them to ask questions in a conversation. They should, listen 90 to 95% of the time. And then the second that they get to a conference, they forget everything that we've been working on, and again, it makes a lot of sense. But let's say that a provider does build that relationship and you get excited, you come back to New York, and you got this one teacher, and she's just not in favor of this or that or really anything. How do you handle that as a superintendent? And then how would you coach a company to approach that resistant teacher?
So I think the first thing is you have to find groups of people, both those that are going to be jumping for joy at something new and those who are not, to be part of a pilot, whether it be paid or not. And I believe that pilots have to be very specific and have to have accountability on both sides. I really think it's important that you kind of set parameters, but you need to start somewhere and you need to build from there. What I have found as a superintendent is when I start small and intentional, all of a sudden, when there are results, what ends up happening is people in the classroom next door say, "Why do I not have this in my room?" "Oh, you want it? Not a problem. Let's expand." We move to the next room. Now we're in 20%. Now we're in 30%. And then you have to get to the point as an administration where you say it's no longer optional. Now we are all doing it because it's working for kids. And ultimately, when something is working for kids, the decision is we're going to move forward as a team. And so, yeah, you're going to get pushback sometimes as an administration. But on the other side, the flip side, if something is really not working and you as a superintendent or assistant sup or principal don't listen to your teachers and just say, no, we're going to do it anyway, that will lead to disaster. Because when the next thing comes in, you will not have buy-in. I will say what's really important here is for the partner to play an active role. You can't be doing virtual PD sessions. You can't be, having phone calls and not coming into the district. I think it's really important to be there on the ground, seeing what's happening, having conversation. How are things going? What can we do better? The best relationships we've had are those opportunities, especially in the early stages, but even for companies that have been around a while, to actually have an impact on the work that they're doing and for them to actually make changes that our teachers are suggesting. When they listen to what our teachers want and they make those changes, you're going to get buy-in, even from those that resist. Because
a lot of the sorry, I was going to say a lot of the companies that we work with, they've in most cases, they've thought of everything. They've probably thought too much. I would say, like, hey, just go to market. And the interesting thing is, I think that, well, I know this to be true, is that they're the founders are hesitant to listen or to ask questions because they don't necessarily want to make the adjustments that are suggested. And what I generally find is that those suggestions, you've probably got a solution. You just have to hear what they're saying and then kind of take what you have and say, I can solve that problem this way.
Right.
So you're not going back and building every single time you expand. Before we wrap up, quick note. If you're serious about building a real lead engine in education, not just booking meetings, but actually creating consistent momentum, this is the work we do inside the EdSales Elevation Experience. We help founders understand how decisions actually get made and then build systems around that. From defining your perfect client, to targeting the right environments, to mining those environments for real opportunities. This isn't theory. It's what founders are doing right now to create predictable pipelines in education. If you want to learn more, check the show notes or go to joshchernikoff.com/go and we'll walk you through it. All right, let's close this out. Let's bring this together. Now, I would like to do something that we've never done. And by the way, Jared doesn't know this is coming. We're going to do, if it's okay, and I'm sure you'll be fine with it, a quick rapid fire.
Sounds good.
All right. Yeah, you're superintendent. You deal with stuff all the time. No worries. Best channel for a provider to reach you: LinkedIn, email, or conferences, and why?
For me, it's conferences. Again, it's opportunities to connect. It's opportunities to connect in low-key stress environments. It's opportunities for me to learn a lot more than I can in a 20, 30-minute phone call. And I get to see people face-to-face and get to know how committed they are to my kids in district, right? And that's important to me.
Worst channel to reach you: email, LinkedIn, conferences.
Email. I just get way too many emails, and it's not that I want to be difficult, but it's just too overwhelming. I am just bad at email. As techie as I am, I've tried everything.
Biggest sales mistake you see: leading with the pitch or not building the relationship?
Not building the relationship. It's all about relationship. At the end of the day, that will last a long, long time if you just invest the time.
As a former TV person, there's not a better way to end a show than by saying thank you for your relationship. And I mean that seriously. You've been so gracious with your time at IEI, our pre-interview, when we were ships crossing in the night, kind of over the break. We were like, we'll make it work. We did. Here we are. And I appreciate that because I know that you are super busy. And now I know that you're inundated with 300 to 500 emails a day.
But that said, Josh, I am always willing to help others, especially at conferences, but even outside. I don't want to make it seem like, I am so busy I can't, support. So if there's anything that I can do for you or anyone through you, just please let me know. I'm always happy to give some time.
I know that's true, and I appreciate that. And we also respect your time and what you do. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way?
So I'm going to go back to one of my answers, but honestly, LinkedIn is probably the best way if you are really reaching out to have a conversation, get some advice, just want to run something past me that I can help with. Please reach out. JT Bloom, happy to help.
Thanks, Jared. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for this episode of the EdSales Edge. Thanks for joining us. If you sell into education, the goal of this show is very simple: to help you stop guessing what actually moves deals in a system where trust matters. If you want to go deeper, join us inside the Entourage, our private community for education founders and operators selling into schools. You'll see the details in the show notes. If this episode helped you think more clearly, that's great. Subscribe, like it, and share it with another founder in the education space. Until next time, get clear, build trust, set up a system for sales, and keep earning your edge.